What does the NFL actually think of your favorite quarterback? What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL reaction video. And in this video, I'm reacting to the Athletic's 2023 quarterback tiers. Why the Athletic's quarterback tiers? Because this is maybe the most interesting insight we get into the NFL's perspective of each starting quarterback entering this season. Mike Sando of The Athletic goes to 50 different executives, coaches, people around the NFL to gather their opinion on each quarterback, place them in a tier, and then he creates his tiers based on the commentary of those players. This is the first time I have seen these rankings and this list. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the Athletic's tier list. Is it accurate? Is it not so accurate? And how well does the NFL really know their quarterbacks? Let's take a look. Okay, here it is. The Athletic's 2023 quarterback tiers. Without further ado, let's go. I also like the Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Brock Purdy picture. Nice little different levels of quarterback play. Okay, so the title is NFL Quarterback Tiers 2023. Mahomes and Burrow take over Tier 1. Hurts vaults to the top of Tier 2. Very interesting. It begins, Patrick Mahomes has no equal in this 10th edition of the quarterback tiers. They've been doing this for 10 years now. Although AFC rival Joe Burrow is close behind, Mahomes, Burrow, and Josh Allen all overtook Aaron Rodgers. Justin Herbert is lurking. Is Jalen Hurts on track to join the exclusive Tier 1 ranks reserved for the very best? The 2023 quarterback tiers results are here, complete with commentary from the 50 NFL coaches and executives who were granted to share unvarnished, what a word, evaluations this year. The 50 league insiders who placed 30 veteran quarterbacks into tiers, including 8 general managers. Oh, he got exact here. 10 head coaches, 8 general managers, 10 head coaches. That's like a pretty big number. 15 coordinators, 10 executives, 4 quarterback coaches, interesting, and 3 involved in coaching and analytics. So he also got the analytical perspective. Voters put 30 veteran quarterbacks into 5 tiers, the best Tier 1 to the worst Tier 5. Quarterbacks were then ranked by average vote and placed into tiers based on vote distribution, beginning with Mahomes, whose average vote was number 1, and so on and so forth. The tiers are defined below. Okay, I think that's enough explanation. Let's get it rocking. I also believe he says no rookies are on the list. So, tier number 1, as described by them. Okay, let's read this. This is very important. A Tier 1 quarterback can carry his team each week. The team wins because of him. He expertly handles pure passing situations. That's very interesting. He also has no holes in his game. Okay, so a Tier 1 quarterback is somebody that can carry their team single-handedly, and they win because of him, and he's great as a pure passer. That has to be understood according to this list, and I believe that Mike would get this from the people in the NFL. So, let's begin with Patrick Mahomes, who is the number 1, and I fully agree on this 100%. It is a little interesting, I guess, that he got all of the Tier 1 votes. I don't see why anyone would say he would be Tier 2. Maybe somebody voted him not number 1, but I'm not sure if they actually say that. But otherwise, you know, he's the best quarterback in football. I think that was stamped and approved based on his last season, winning the MVP, winning the Super Bowl, doing it all last year, having one of the most impressive seasons we've really seen in NFL history as a collective, playoffs and regular season. I think at this point, Mahomes is that guy. He is the best, and that's 100% cool. It says Mahomes was a unanimous Tier 1 choice for the third time in the past 4 seasons. He has commanded top-tier recognition on 199 of 200 ballots over that time, best in the league. Somebody said he's clearly the best player in the league and just entering the front end of his prime window, an exec said. He reminds me so much of Rodgers. This is the time in his career where, just like Rodgers, the final polishing of his game will be in his clock manipulation, calling timeouts, and knowing even better when to give up on plays. Cool. Like that insight. All right, next we've got Joe Burrow at number 2. And Joe Burrow did actually have a Tier 2 vote. So interesting. He had 49 Tier 1 votes. This isn't, by the way, this isn't QB1, QB2. This is Tier 1, Tier 2. So there's a gap. There's like 4 or 5 Tier 1 guys. So Joe Burrow to be voted into Tier 2 by anybody is a little interesting. So they say about Joe Burrow that he climbed into the bottom of Tier 1 last year, but he went to the very top this year. He overtook Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers in getting there. Somebody said that Burrow is fantastic, a defensive coach perspective. He is tough, smart, accurate, has a lot of intangibles you are looking for. Totally agree with that. He just takes a lot of sacks. Also agree with that, which I'm worried about with Joe. He gets hit a lot. I agree with that as well. And a lot of his fault is that he's a dog. Yeah, so basically he's saying he's too tough for his own good, but he's awesome, essentially. Burrow's lone Tier 2 vote came from an executive who listed only 2 quarterbacks in Tier 1, Mahomes and Allen. Interesting. The exec cited that he has no real holes in his game, which is the verbiage and definition of Tier 1, but that the sacks Burrow takes are a hole in his game. Okay, so the reason that one guy said there is one hole in Burrow's game, which is why he's not Tier 1. He takes too many sacks. Interesting. I like that. Okay, he also says that Joe is going to hang onto it till the very last second. All right, so I think it's pretty much recognized that Joe Burrow, by 99% of people on this voting, is a Tier 1 quarterback. He might not be the number 2 guy for everybody, as that guy had Josh Allen above him, but it's at least, debatable there. But he's undoubtedly a Tier 1 quarterback by most people. And pretty much what most people are saying here is he's accurate. They love the intangibles, but he just takes too many sacks and he needs to get rid of the ball. I agree with all of that. I totally agree with all of that. So, yeah. Then we've got Josh Allen, number 3. I'm liking it so far. Somebody says, okay, interesting. He had 6 Tier 2 votes. That's quite a few. That's a lot more than Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow was decisively above Josh Allen based on Josh Allen had 6 Tier 2 votes. Burrow only had 1. So just keep that into perspective. But it's interesting that one guy actually had Allen above Burrow. So they say that Allen is one of 35 quarterbacks to appear in QB tiers at least 5 times. He's the only one among them whose average vote improved in his 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th appearances. So his actual voting improved this year compared to last year, which I think is interesting because I thought Josh Allen was better last year than this year. That's kind of interesting. Let me know what you guys think of that. The turnovers are what people harp on, but he put together another year where he overcame the accuracy flaws that plagued him coming out of college, and he fought through adversity when they lost some star players like Von Miller, an exec said. He is a guy I can firmly say you win because of instead of win with. I totally agree with that. I think there is some of the Allen over Burrow argument would be Burrow maybe has more to work with. I think Burrow's defense in the biggest games has shown up more. I think Josh Allen has to do more to win games. He's constantly asked to pass a ton, run a ton, just take over a game to win. It feels like even Mahomes, Burrow, these other guys aren't asked to do as much as Allen is. It feels like Allen is asked to do more than any quarterback in football. A defensive coordinator says he's legitimate. He can beat you with his arm. He has all the arm strength. His accuracy is improved, but he can also beat you running. He's a big boy, similar to Mahomes, but he is going to take off. It is like trying to tackle a tight end. Okay, love that. All right, Aaron Rodgers at number 4. This is the first one I disagree with. I think this is too high, and I honestly think this is giving Aaron Rodgers too much respect. Aaron Rodgers still being in tier number 1, still being at number 4, I think is a little much. I will say, though, the voting, though, doesn't really reflect that he should be in tier. So he has 30 tier 1 votes and 20 tier 2 votes. So when you look at it, I mean, Allen, Burrow, and Mahomes are like decisively tier 1 quarterbacks. 44 votes for Allen, only 6 in tier 2. When you go Aaron Rodgers, 20 in tier 2. So that's a big drop off from number 3 to number 4, which I agree with. I just disagree who number 4 is a little bit. So what do they say about Aaron Rodgers? I think this is kind of interesting. Rodgers' fall from the unanimous and near unanimous tier 1 ranks should feel familiar. Tom Brady experienced an even more extreme downgrade when transitioning from New England to Tampa following a forgettable final season. So somebody says here, Brady goes to Tampa, has more talent around him. He hosts receivers at his house for throwing sessions. He has a great year. A voter with NFC North experience said. Rodgers goes to the Jets. He has more talent around him. He's clearly more motivated. He was at OTAs. He has been a part of the offseason program. It's the same. So yeah, I kind of see that point where Rodgers maybe was a little bit out of it, kind of a little bit removed from Green Bay last year, wasn't motivated the way that he is now. And I totally see that point, and I think that is a thing for Brady. It was a thing for Brady. It is a thing for Rodgers. I don't know, though. I think there's more of an excuse for Brady. Maybe this is just my Brady bias. I don't know. You guys tell me, but feels like Brady had a lot less to work with than it feels like Rodgers did. I don't think Brady was ever the problem. You know, Brady still won 12 games that year, right? Rodgers won, 9? 8 last season? So, yeah, that's a pretty big difference, in my opinion, and Brady still made the playoffs while Rodgers didn't. It felt like Rodgers a lot of the time, was kind of at fault more so than Brady did in 2019. I know that's a few years removed. It just felt like nobody was ever open for New England. It felt like Rodgers was kind of decisively, just getting rid of the ball quickly, not being aggressive, kind of being too conservative, which I think is kind of the difference for me when I look at the two situations. I also think Rodgers is a little bit more fragile, and definitely his ego is a little bit different than Brady, but that's just me. Now, they continue here. I think this is interesting. Father Time is undefeated, a voter who placed the 39-year-old in tier 2. Brady always won by his arm and never had to use his feet. Aaron used his feet more in the past. Okay, yeah, that's true. And I think that part of his game has left him. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I still think he can move fairly well. He's accurate, but I don't think he can do it for 17 games. That might be true. He has to have other dimensions to help him. I agree with that, actually, even in his MVP seasons. It's weird because Rodgers was not an MVP based on volume. It was based on efficiency. Rodgers has never been a guy that carried a team based on volume. So that's actually never been a good argument for Rodgers. He's always been more of an efficiency guy over a volume guy. Continuing with Justin Herbert here. Justin Herbert also in tier number 1. I have him as my number, 6 quarterback. He's at number 5 here, so that's not too crazy for me. Based on their description of a quarterback, they win because of him. I would agree with that. Based on pure passing situations, I would agree with that. I probably would rank him a little bit higher if that was solely what it was based on. But I will say that Herbert has just not gotten to that winning level that I would like to see. Let's see what they have to say about Herbert. Now, in terms of the voting, 29 in tier 1, 21 in tier 2. So he's basically identical to Rodgers, except Rodgers got one more vote in tier 1. So it was that close. That was super close. So Herbert received 7 fewer tier 1 votes this year than last year after his production fell and his Chargers blew 27-0 lead to Jacksonville in the playoffs. He remained solidly within tier 1 with only 1 vote separating him and Rodgers. I think he can carry the team just from me coaching against him, a defensive coordinator said. Okay, so defensive coordinators like him. He has the size, the arm strength. He sees the field well. What shocks you is his mobility for his size. He's a better version of Deshaun Watson. Interesting. 21 voters placed Herbert in tier 2. What can Herbert do to win them over? Not lose when you have that kind of lead in the playoffs, a head coach said. A head coach said. Was it Doug Peterson? Make a play when you had multiple opportunities to make one. I think new coordinator Kellen Moore is going to give him opportunities to light up the stat sheet. I want to see him win. I'm with you, bro. I'm with you, head coach. I don't know who you are. This sounds like an old school head coach, though. It's kind of funny, but I agree with that. I very much agree with that. I think that Herbert, for me, because of that, is in tier 2. I'm with you. I think he's got all the talent in the world, but for that reason alone, he's in tier 2. He's got to win a playoff game for me. All right, tier number 2. Here it is. A tier 2 quarterback can carry his team sometimes, but not consistently. Not as consistently. He can handle pure passing situations in doses and or possesses other dimensions that are special enough to elevate him above tier 3. So basically, he probably can run. And then he says he has a hole or two in his game. So number 6 is Jalen Hurts, which in the article stated that Jalen Hurts was super close to making it to tier 1. But based on the voting, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. He only had 10 votes in tier 1. So I don't know what this guy's talking about, Mr. Mike. Tier 2, he had 38 votes. So that's still pretty decisively tier 2. He actually had 2 tier 3 votes, which I strongly disagree with that. But Jalen Hurts being anywhere around 4 to 7 feels about right. So number 6, I think, is fairly accurate. I think people that put him at number 4 are probably too high on him, and number 7 are probably a little too low on him. So 5 or 6 feels most accurate for me. Hurts has climbed from 30th to 20th to 6th. That does feel like a good progression. I would agree with that based on the article. In 3 appearances in the quarterback tiers, placing him on the brink of the top tier. Only quarterback Geno Smith gained more ground from last year. I also agree that it's hard to rank a guy so much higher based on one season. Hurts has progressively at every level gotten better the longer he is in a system. Okay? An exec who provided one of Hurts' 10 top tier votes said, he is not just solely a runner. He has shown that he can push the ball down the field. That is a fact. That is a fact. He has shown that he's a very good deep down the field thrower. He has to improve his consistent accuracy, but that is something that comes with time on the job. I agree, man. I think the thing that you have to love about Hurts is his off the field work ethic. The guy works his butt off, and he really works to get better as a passer, and we've seen that with every season. So if you're projecting him to be tier 1, I totally understand that based on the strides he's taken each and every season. But people say that he's yet to prove it in his 2-minute situations. That is why I was so fascinated with the Super Bowl. A head coach said, if they do not call that pass interference, Kansas City kicks a field goal, and then we find out once and for all Jalen Hurts in the 2-minute, because the last time he was in one, and people forget this, they lost at home on Monday night. Washington didn't let him out of the tackle box, and Philly did not win the game. So there's still people across the NFL in the community that believe he's still not a great passer from the pocket, and I certainly understand that. I think the biggest reason for Jalen Hurts in tier 2 is the fact that he did not have to deal with a lot of change. He's had a stacked team, and he hasn't gone through a lot of ups and downs. You know, like a guy like Mahomes has gone through changes in his personnel and different players around him, Josh Allen, even Joe Burrow with offensive lines and that sort of deal, dealing with adversity in your lineup. The thing that I would say about Hurts is he's constantly had a great situation, which I think is what may hold him in tier 2. Do they say anything about that here? Let's see. They say the personnel situation in Philly has been unusually favorable. Okay. That probably changes in the future as Hurts' new contract robs resources from elsewhere on the roster and opponents improve their plans for Philly's offense. Yeah. Some voters predicted Hurts would settle closer to tier 3 than tier 1 once that happens. It could happen, but I don't know, man. I just feel like he has that kind of like X factor to him. Okay, let's move on. Lamar Jackson. Now, here's the thing. I think Lamar is better than Hurts. I think he's proven to do more with less. That's my biggest argument for Lamar over Hurts. I'd also say Lamar has an MVP, Lamar has the second best win percentage in football other than Pat Mahomes as a quarterback. And Lamar has done it for longer, more consistently. Now, has he stayed healthy as of late? Not exactly, but I'd also say Lamar is probably a better passer than Jalen Hurts. So for me, I would argue that Lamar is better than Jalen Hurts, but let's hear what the people have to say. All right, tier number 1, he had 8 votes, which seems kind of low. 37 tier 2 votes, which he's firmly in tier 2, and 5 tier 3 votes, which is more than Jalen Hurts. Interesting. But he had more tier 1 votes. No, he had less. Oh, what? Okay. Anyways, Lamar is coming off a second successive injury-shortened season, but his average tier vote remains stable, and he rose 3 spots in his rankings. Hurts passed him, but Jackson passed Stafford, Wilson, Deshaun, and Tom Brady retired. Okay. I was really tempted to put him at 1 since when he's healthy, Baltimore wins. I agree, sir. And sometimes it's just that simple. Okay, continuing. An exec said, but I kept him at 2 with the definition requiring expert handling of pure pass situations. Here's where I think people are wrong about Lamar. He's good in pure pass situations. He just has never had receivers. We'll see this year, though. Jackson's passing will be the focus this season as Baltimore transitions to new offensive coordinator Todd Monken. Voters were divided over whether the change will unleash Jackson or expose his limitations. Okay. What's nice is Monken is getting him as a veteran quarterback, a GM said. He doesn't have him as a first or second year guy. I would agree with that. I think Greg Roman was great for him early in his career, but he needed an evolution. I totally agree. Jackson's average tier vote improved from 2 last year to 1.94. So it's interesting that he actually went up this year. If Josh Allen was in that same offense Lamar was in, you would think of Josh Allen the same way you think of Lamar. Interesting, a defensive coordinator said. Josh was just in a more pro-favorable offense. I do totally agree with that. Now, that being said, I don't think Allen could run the way Lamar can. I would also say Josh can make more throws than Lamar can. So I think there's slight differences, but I see his point. Whether they thought they were doing the simple fact of the matter is, if they put basically in a college offense, it was really good to see if Lamar elevates his game and people say he is more like Josh Allen. Okay, I kind of see what he's saying. All right, number 8, Trevor Lawrence, which I think is the exact same ranking I had him, or maybe I had him as 7. I had Rodgers at 8, guys. I had Rodgers a lot lower than these guys. That's the biggest kind of difference between us so far. I had Lamar at 4. I had Hurts at 5, I think. Herbert at 6. So there's slight differences between our opinions. Trevor Lawrence, 3 tier 1 votes, which I think is a little strong at this point. He's only had 1 good year, but we'll hear what they have to say. It's probably a projection thing. Tier number 2, 33 votes. 14 tier 3 votes. That's a lot. That's like 9 more than Lamar. That's a lot. Okay, let's hear what they have to say. I don't agree with tier 3 at all. I guess it depends though. I guess we'll see how many guys tier 3 have. Lawrence made the 3rd largest gain from last year in average tier vote, jumping from the bottom of tier 3 into the middle of tier 2. Jackson was the last quarterback to make a bigger year-over-year jump in average tier vote at a similar point in his career. Okay, so year 1 to year 2, Lamar made a big leap. Yeah. I could see him making a jump to a 1 this year, a defensive coordinator said. I agree with that. You saw something flip after the bye week? Yep. He wasn't very good early in the year, by the way. That is something. Like, if you're going to argue he was a tier 3 quarterback, if you want to argue that, it's that he's only really had one, kind of like a 10-week stretch of tier 2 based play. But I'd argue that it was kind of fringe tier 1. So it was actually above tier 2. That's what I would argue. Now, they continue. He was more confident in the offense. I still think he's a bit slow to trigger. I agree. And takes too many sacks. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't think he takes too many sacks. I would say that he is a little slow, though. That's something from college, and I think his release is pretty deliberate as well. He hasn't been real accurate as a pro passer. I also don't think he's as accurate as some of the best guys in the league, but I wouldn't say he's inaccurate. Not as much as I thought he would have been, okay? But I also saw that in college, so maybe we just have a different opinion on the player. But you could see big improvements, quicker decisions, a GM said. He took a huge jump last year. He hit a couple throws on the move in the playoffs where you're like, holy blank. Yeah, he makes those throws for sure, and I think that's why people fall in love with him. He also threw 4 picks in the first half, but he's going places. Yeah, okay. Dallas was up 17 on him late, and they brought him back. Yeah, he was great in comebacks. I totally agree with that. I think tier 2 is a good spot for him. I think number 8 makes a lot of sense. I'm cool with that. No problems. I just think there's 14 tier 3 votes. I would have liked an explanation for that a little bit more. Dak Prescott at number 9. That seems a little high, honestly. I think I had him at number 10 or 11. But 9 just feels high, I guess, because I don't know. Tier 1, 1 vote. Okay. Tier 2, 36 votes. Tier 3, 13 votes. All right. Dak Prescott. This is Prescott's 4th consecutive season ranking between 9th and 12th. Because that's where he ranks. That's just what Dak Prescott is. And that's why Cowboys fans get frustrated with Dak Prescott, because he's good, but he's not great, which is what he's a tier 2 quarterback. If you're defining a tier 2 quarterback, it's Dak Prescott, guys. Dak has done it year in and year out, and this past year, I don't think it was through the health of an efficient run game, a defensive coach said. He always falls short in the end, but he puts up numbers. I feel like a lot of the load was on him last season. Yeah, I mean, his receivers weren't as good. Offensive line was a bit new. Run game was not as great. Play calling wasn't as good. I would say Kellen Moore had kind of a rough year. The Cowboys have 24-10 record over the past 2 seasons. They rank 7th in offensive EPA and 2nd on defense over that span, but only have 1 postseason victory. Fair. But they've just been losing to the Niners because the Niners have been better. Here's my problem with that analysis. The Niners are a better team. That's why they lost. Okay? There is always a knock on guys who do not go deep in the playoffs, the defensive coordinator said. Dak can drop back. He is great with play action and boot. He has some movement ability. Yeah, I think he should use it more. Ultimately, what he keeps him from being tier 1 is he turns the ball over. Last year, I agree. Usually, though, not really. I just felt playing him, he was a solid player, but he has yet to ever elevate them. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's Dak Prescott. We know this. Matthew Stafford at number 10, I think that's interesting. I think that's a lot of respect. I think moving forward, I don't really see Stafford in the top 10. But let's see what they have to say. 1 vote for tier 1, 32 for tier 2, 17 for tier 3. So kind of split. Stafford is making his 10th consecutive appearance in tier 2. 10th consecutive? This is a 10-year list. He's been in tier 2 every year. That's kind of impressive, honestly. He's never been in tier 1, which is interesting. I think he has been for me at some time. But his 2.32 average vote was his worst since entering the 2016 season. Interesting. He played only 9 games in 2022 because of injury. Okay, what do they have to say? I don't know if they can protect well enough for him. Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. Offensive coach said, does he really give a anymore at this stage? Or is he just going to wing it? I think he still cares. And he's just going to force it. I mean, maybe he'll try to put up numbers this year. He knows his team sucks. But at the same time, I would argue that that's the only way they're going to win any games, is if he just goes out there and slings it. Rivers led the NFL in interceptions twice over the last 3 seasons with the Chargers. Stafford led the league in 2021, but his interception rate has never been as high as Rivers. Okay. If he doesn't get hurt, he is still a top-level quarterback. I can see that argument. I think he can still sling it around. The offense was not predicated on the run first, even when they won the Super Bowl. I agree. That's kind of something that McVay, for the first time, when he got Stafford, he swayed away from being run first. That's something that Jared Goff defenders get wrong. Like, Jared Goff's offense in LA was always run predicated. Stafford's was pass predicated. He still has the ability to win in 2-minute drill. He's still going to be great at that. He's going to be great at that forever. He's one of the best of all time in 2-minute drill. Number 11, the highly controversial Deshaun Watson. Okay, what do they have to say about Deshaun? 1 tier 1 vote. Honestly, surprised there weren't more. just because of the controversial type of player he is. 31 tier 2 votes, 17 tier 3 votes, and 1 tier 4 vote, which if you're just basing it off how he played last year, yeah, I mean, I probably agree with that. So he says only Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, and Derek Carr, that's quite a few people, only, suffered greater year-over-year drops than Watson suffered in the average tier vote. I'll tell you what, when we played him, it was bad, a defensive coach said. It was real shaky. Only Mayfield and Joe Flacco ranked lower than Watson last season in EPA. Okay. Everybody thinks, okay, his rust will wear off in a couple weeks, a defensive coordinator said. That guy hadn't played in what, a year and some change? That's a hard thing. He was one of my ones last year. I would have put him as a 2 with the probability that he will be a 1 again. Interesting. So it kind of feels like, and I would agree with this logic, Deshaun is rather going to be a tier 1 or a tier 3 quarterback. That is going to be my opinion. Even though I think I put him somewhat, I want to put him like high teens. I think I put him around there. Pretty close to 11. And the reason was because he used to be an elite quarterback. But here's the thing about him. It feels like he's rather going to boom or he's going to somewhat bust. I don't know if he's going to be a tier 2 guy. That's kind of the interesting thing. All right. Number 12, we got Kirk. Which I think Kirk's being slept on this. I think he deserves to be in the top 10. I'm going to say it again. I say it. Kirk Cousins. Patty Mahomes was right. Most underrated quarterback in the league, and he still doesn't get any respect. And this is classic Kirk Cousins. 25 tier 2 votes, 25 tier 3 votes. Of course! All right, let's go for it. Cousins has climbed into tier 2 for the second time in 8 quarterback tier appearances, and by the narrowest of margins. The last time was entering 2017 when 26 of 50 voters placed him in tier 2. Okay, interesting. People have him down in tier 3, and I'm like, no, an exec said. I love that. But the guy is a riddle. He plays almost flawlessly in the second half of the biggest comeback in the history of the league against Indianapolis, which almost no one can do. Yeah, okay. And then 1 month later in the playoffs, he's got 4th and 8 on the last play of the game, and he's hitting the check down 5 yards short of the sticks. Okay, yeah, that's indefensible. But at the same time, like, he played really well in that playoff game too. Like, let's not take away how well he played in the playoff game, other than that play. Okay, anyways, Cousins dropped off statistically last season from his 2019 to 2021 pace. But the Vikings went 11-0 in one-score games. Does that not have something to do with Kirk Cousins? He led the NFL in 8 fourth-quarter comebacks. Yes, and that is, yeah, that's pretty good. He is probably the guy I was torn the most on between tier 2 and tier 3. An offensive coordinator who placed Cousins in tier 2 said, he will probably never win a Super Bowl, but he's just damn good, who more times than not, they are at least even, if not a little ahead of who they are playing from a quarterback standpoint. Okay, fair enough. Tier number 3. All right, so Cousins was the last tier 2 quarterback. That's hilarious. Tier 3. A tier 3 quarterback is a legit starter, but needs a heavier running game and or defensive component to win. A lower volume dropback passing offense suits him best. Okay. Seems like we're going to get a lot of guys here. Kyler Murray at 13. I can respect. I had him lower for playing and off the field reasons, but let's see what they have to say. This one's kind of interesting. So he had 1 tier 1 vote, which I'm intrigued to see if anyone else in this entire tier has a tier 1 vote. 18 tier 2 votes, 31 tier 3 votes. So a lot of tier 3 votes. But he was fairly close. I mean, one guy voted him into tier 1. Anyways, Murray dropped into tier 3 after a rough season that ended with a torn ACL. I'm anxious to see how he handles the ACL because when you are that electric, it's kind of like RG3. That is a big point that I really haven't thought of, honestly, until now, is like he's small, quick, fast. Like that's his game. Like if he loses the juice, he's toast. Like he really is. And that's a reason why the Cardinals should look to trade him and get Caleb Williams in the draft. Anyways, continuing. So when he was healthy, he was the reason they were a playoff team in 2021. This is also why I defended him in my rankings, because when they've been good, he is the reason they've been good. So there's this love and hate I have for Kyler. The lone voter who placed Murray in tier number 1 said, "It wasn't because of the defense or special teams or DeAndre Hopkins or a great running game. It was his ability to make plays. When a guy can take over a game as often as he did, it means he is the franchise. The leadership part could knock him down." Okay. All right, so I think I kind of get it. You know, it's really weird when you're young. When this happens, those guys are naturally tougher on you. You come off some type of way. Now, work ethic stuff, an intangible part of the job. Enough is out there where that is real. Kyler has established that with a fresh start because on the field, I think he's a tier 2 quarterback if he's healthy. Yeah, I mean, I agree that by the definition of tier 2, being a guy, so going back to the definition of tier 2, a quarterback that can carry his team but not consistently. He can handle pure passing situations with doses and or possesses other dimensions that are special enough to elevate him to tier 3. He has a hole or two in his game. That sounds like Kyler Murray to me. Now, if you include the off the field element, maybe that's where you push him into tier 3. But I feel like based on his play, he's tier 2. On this list, at least. Derek Carr, 18 tier 2 votes, 32 tier 3 votes, no tier 1, no tier 4, which is interesting. I had him a lot lower than this. After I had him very high last year, because I thought he stunk last year. I did. Carr's 9-year run with the Raiders ended up with the team ranked 32nd in EPA on defense and special teams. He's never had a good defense. We know this. The dynamics... Okay, wait. Okay. The dynamics should be different for Carr in New Orleans, which could allow him to win more frequently, even if he's largely the same player. Yeah, that's the thought, at least. Derek is in the same category as Cousins or Goff, where I think people have a much worse opinion of them than the coaches have, a defensive play caller said. Derek is a special passer, quick release, accuracy. He's got more mobility than you think. I don't disagree with any of these things, at least at his best. What he holds back is courage in the pocket. Totally agree with that. He is a little bit of a charmin' soft quarterback. But he can throw it, and he can be really good decision maker. Really sharp at the line of scrimmage. I'm higher on him than most. I agree with everything that guy said. He's probably pretty good as a defensive coordinator. Carr rose into tier 2 last year, then settled back into tier 3 for the 4th time in the past 5 years of a disappointing season with Josh McDaniels. Derek can still make some big plays, but when you get him too frequently, he's a big... What? But what you get with him too frequently is a key big error. Okay. That keeps him out of tier 2. He is a roller coaster. Last year, for sure. A better offensive line, a better defense in New Orleans should help him. The Saints ranked 2nd in defensive EPA over the past 3 seasons, while the Raiders ranked 31st. I think he's a little bit above tier 3 as a quarterback. With those pieces around him, New Orleans is going to help a defensive coordinator. So defensive coordinators seem to like Derek Carr for the most part, it feels like. Okay. I thought he sucked last year. That's why I had him lower. That's just my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I definitely agree with all the parts about like New Orleans on paper. They should have a better defense. Their offensive line, I don't know if it's that much better, honestly. I think the Raiders is actually probably better. But we'll see. Scheme should be more comfortable for him. He's got a lot of receivers to work with. We'll see how it goes. Jared Goff at number 15 feels about right, although I might have him a tad higher. I definitely have him higher than Carr. This is Goff's 4th consecutive year in tier 3, but his average tier vote is higher than it's been since Goff was coming off of his 2018 Super Bowl season. So he had 17 tier 2 votes, 33 tier 3 votes. I gave Jared a 3, and that might be a little too low because he played amazing last year, a coordinator said. I'm giving the system and the Lions offense more love than I'm giving Jared. They ran the ball really well, maybe the most creative run game that we looked at last year. Interesting note there. If Jared does it again, he would cement himself, in my opinion, as a 2. Okay. Some love for the Jared Goff man. I saw all their tape, and he was dynamite last year, an offensive coach said. So I think that guy was a defensive coach, and this guy's offensive coach. Got the ball out of his hands, did not get stuck in the backfield. He was accurate with touch. He's still not great, but he has he got the most out of what he is. That I agree with strongly. Like, I feel like he can't really play better than he played last year, which I think last year he maybe played like a tier 2 quarterback. I think on average he's a tier 3. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with this. I think he's like a solid QB. I think he does need a good offensive line. I will say that. Nobody mentioned that. I think he's always functioned with a good running game, and whenever he has not had a good offensive line or a good running game, he has struggled, period. He has had that in Detroit. That has worked for him. I think he's going to continue to have that, and because of that, I think he's going to be a solid quarterback. Solid. Capability to play at times like a tier 2, but mostly a tier 3. That's kind of my opinion. Russell Wilson at number 16. If based on last year, he sucked. Like, absolutely stunk last season. He has 2 tier 4 votes for it, but 11 tier 2 votes, 37 tier 3 votes. Now let's see what they have to say, because Russell Wilson is an interesting one. He's right in the middle of the list at number 16. Wilson's drop in average tier vote from 1.72 last year to 2.82 this year is the largest decline in the 10-year history of the list, guys. I think he was out of shape, this guy said. I agree. He looked fat. I think he was reading his own press clippings last year. I think they bent backwards. I can't read. They bent backwards for him in the trade, and he had them by the short hairs. But I think Sean Payton is going to get the most out of him, an offensive coordinator said. It would not surprise me if he plays well this year. I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. I also agree. He looked chubby as you know what. Some injury stuff probably was real last year, but he has lost that athleticism and speed to make plays. That's my biggest concern about him. I just don't think he's the playmaker he once was. If Russ is not stubborn, if he has a willingness to listen and he respects Sean Payton as much as I think he probably does, there will be more stability. I also agree with that. So I think Russ will be better than last year. I don't think he'll be great this year. I think he'll be tier 3. I think this is a fair ranking. I probably would have a couple guys ahead of him based on projection. I think Russ is going a little downhill as a physical talent. And he's also smaller. Don't forget about that. People forget about that. And that athleticism did him very well for his career. So Tua is at number 17, 7 tier 2 votes, 41 tier 3 votes, 2 tier 4 votes. Okay, let's hear it. Tua made the 5th largest jump from last year, drawing tier 2 votes for the first time in 3 quarterback tier appearances. He escaped tier 4 for the first time and now must prove he can stay on the field for a full season. When the pocket was clean, he was pretty dynamite this past season, an offensive coach said. His short area accuracy is a defining trait that elevates him. I agree. Those are things that I like. And he is much better with good around him, which all quarterbacks are, though. So, like tier 3, right? Having a chance to go against him from his rookie year to where he is now, the accuracy is definitely a strength, and he has a little bit of mobility. But when you have just average guys at receiver, he becomes very average. This sounds like he might be a Patriot guy. A Patriot guy or a Bill guy, potentially. If you don't allow him to throw the ball on time, he could be very suspect. When teams get up and slow down Tyreek Hill and number 17, didn't even call him Jalen Waddle, number 17, you saw the deficiencies into his game. He is a timing thrower. Ball has to come out on time, very little disruption, and that to me puts him as 3. That almost sounds like a tier 4 to me. An offensive coach said this kind of thinking can put the player in a no-win situation. Sometimes it seems that people will use the same argument to build a guy up, to tear him down. If they like him, they'll say the player has no one around him. Then the team will give him players, and people says the only reason he's succeeding is because of the player. I think there's a middle ground, though. There's a middle ground between having Mike McDaniel, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then not having those guys. You know what I mean? Like, there's a middle ground between having Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Mike McDaniel, and having Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, and Matt Patricia. Just saying. Okay, number 18, Jimmy Garoppolo. I would rank Jimmy Garoppolo above Tua because Garoppolo has been a better, more consistent player over a longer period of time. And I think, I guess if you're projecting, maybe you have Tua above if you're basing it off going into next year. But I think based on like their career so far, Jimmy's been better and the guy wins, man. Okay, let's see what they have to say. 7 tier 2 votes, which is not a lot. 5 tier 4 votes. That's a lot. 38 tier 3 votes. Okay, this is interesting. Voters want to see Garoppolo perform without Kyle Shanahan. Okay. I get that. He's been with teams that can run it. They do have a good back, Josh Jacobs, and they will probably hand it off a fair amount. They will. Offensive coach said he's a good 3. He's a 3, but he's a good 3. Plays like a 2 a decent amount of the time. Okay, that's some respect. Garoppolo's knowledge of Coach Josh McDaniels' offense should help him, but will the offense itself help him? This is going to be a whole different world for Jimmy back with Josh because now completions are first and the run game, yes, Josh is going to call it, but they don't live in the wide zone. I don't think that matters, bro. This head coach is a dumbass. I think this is going to be a true test for Jimmy. Bro, it doesn't matter if they live in the... It's not like Jimmy Garoppolo is some, like, great scrambler. I don't get that. I agree that durability is a factor. Jimmy is obviously a system guy, probably on the lower end of 2s. It sounds like this is more positive than the ranking. Anyways, let's continue. Number 19, Daniel Jones. This is very low. This is very low for my opinion. I think the NFL is lower on Daniel Jones than I am. Okay. Only Geno Smith, Jalen Hurts. By the way, Geno has not come up yet. Geno is still not on the list. Interesting. Geno Smith, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence improved their quarterback tiers, standing more than Jones from last year. Only. Okay, so only 3 people improved. So it was a big jump, but it still feels low to me, 19. I love the way he took care of the ball, a head coach said. That was the number one thing he improved on. I agree. I don't know if his arm will ever elevate those around him. That being said, he does have a good arm. But when you are a big man that has athleticism and takes care of the ball, you're going to give yourself a chance. The Giants are banking on improved weaponry, blah, 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 blah. The team ranked 30th in air yards per attempt. Everybody knows. But here's the thing, bud. Is it because they had Isaiah Hodgins as their number 1 receiver, or is it because they had Darius Slayton as their number 2 receiver? I don't know. You tell me. Anyways, continuing. He's a function of the offense, a defensive coordinator said. I don't think from the arm standpoint, he does a whole lot. No, last year he didn't because he has no receivers. But his speed does. And I do think Brian Daboll protects his quarterbacks, even Josh Allen, by giving them very predictable throws, successful throws, easy throws to skill players. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, he had a good system last year. And not saying anything different. He's kind of like Ryan Tannehill, somebody said. That's interesting. I agree with that kind of. He played really well last year. I think with the added weapons, we're going to find out what he can do. All right. I agree that he is like a fringe tier 2, tier 3 type of guy. I would just have him higher. I would also have Geno a lot higher. I thought Geno was really impressive last year. Let's see what they have to say about Geno. 7 tier 2 votes. Only 7. 36 tier 3 votes and 7 tier 4 votes. Did they watch Geno Smith play last year? I don't even know. Voters loved Smith entering last season, but only as a backup. They did not think he would emerge as a solid starter for the Seahawks. Then again, even Seattle had to be surprised. Nobody would have guessed he would be a Pro Bowl quarterback last year, a GM said. Some guys make a jump. He has solidified as a legit starter that can win some games. The Seahawks were 9-8, reached the playoffs with a team from an EPA standpoint that ranked higher on offense, again, 15th, than defense, 25th. That should help you be higher on the list. I'm sorry. He's got arm talent in terms of strength and accuracy, definitely. He's got mobility, and the guy is really smart, an offensive coordinator said. He also has a great way about him with the guys, and express himself. He can lead a football team. They believe in the guys. So I put him as a 3, but he's in that 2-3 range. Bro, you're explaining a guy that's better than your ranking. Again, like, what is this? Smith's year-to-year jump in average tier was the largest for any quarterback from last year, obviously. I don't think what Geno did last year was a fluke, a defensive coordinator said. You did see him oppress a little bit at times. Who could be more of a mindset thing? Which could be more of a mindset thing? To become a 2, you have to prove it 2 years. Okay, so that's kind of like the biggest reasoning, that he's only done it for 1 year. All right. Justin at number 21. All right, let's see how this goes. This is going to be interesting. I wonder if they include any negatives in here. Let's okay, so 11 tier 4 votes. 11. Okay. 5 tier 2 votes. Those people need to be tested for drugs. Okay. 34 tier 3 votes. Let's see what they have to say. Fields climbed into tier 3 on the strength of his... Okay, hold on. Geno Smith is 1 spot above Justin Fields. That doesn't sit well with me. Fields climbed into tier 3 on the strength of his rushing. He'll climb higher in the future if his passing improves. As a runner, he is a 1. An offensive coordinator said. Yeah, okay, obviously. As a player, he's been inconsistent, but it would not shock me if we were having the conversation next year and he is a high 2. For now, the hype does not equal the ranking. I'm with you there. ESPN. Dan Orlovsky. Okay, I think Fields has a chance, a defensive coordinator said. He has a skill set to do it, and in that division, he has a chance to shine. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I'm not giving up on the kid because of the skill set he does have. When you have those legs, you can find the right offense and give some skill players, and we'll see. Okay. The hope for Fields is that he'll become a functional passer. They changed their offense pretty much to make him a runner, an exec said. The accuracy and anticipation from the pocket, I just don't see it being there. I'm with you. Thank you for putting this in the article. That was the big issue for him coming out. We will see how he looks with more weapons. I agree. We'll see how he looks with more weapons if that improves. But those are 2 flaws I'm not sure he overcomes. That's my take. That is my take. Right there. That guy right there. That executive. That's my take. Ryan Tannehill below Justin Fields. Ha! Anyways, let's keep it going. How many times does Ryan Tannehill need to go to the playoffs before Justin Fields wins 5 games for him to be ranked above Justin Fields? Okay, let's keep it going. 1 tier 2 vote, which I think is interesting. 42 tier 3 votes, so a pretty secure tier 3. 2 tier 5 votes? Who's voting? Tier 5? Would you rather play with him or against him, an exec said. To be honest, he is probably someone I'd rather play against. Those 3 interceptions in the Bengals game, that was last year. Is he talking about last year or this year? 7 voters placed Tannehill lower than tier 3. Amid some sense, the end could be nearing. No voter placed Tannehill below tier 3 heading into 2021 or 2022. Tannehill is in a pivotal point where his replacements are already on the roster. Ryan's a solid starter who has managed to prevent the big errors, but he often a byproduct of the success of skill positions of the defense. I would agree with that, but I still think that I still don't think he shouldn't be a little higher. A Tannehill-led team can't win a Super Bowl. His limited mobility has made... Limited mobility? He used to be a really good athlete, but he's older now, can't move as well as he used to. This is very negative. Very negative, Titans fans. Let me know what you guys think. I think Tannehill should be a bit higher. He's deserved that much respect. I mean, we look at last year. He had no receivers. His offensive line was terrible. I mean, how much are you really going to take? His coordinator got fired. The GM got fired for trading his number 1 receiver. Look at the Titans' offensive situation last year. Mac Jones, my guy, number 23, Mackie D. Let's see what he got to say. Let him cook. Let him cook. Okay, let's see what they got. No tier 2 votes. 37 tier 3, 13 tier 4. So 13 tier 4. That's more than Fields. And that's the most so far. All right. There's no shortage of quarterbacks whose situation was extreme last season. Jones had it worse than most. Okay? You can throw last year out. An offensive coach who called Jones a low-level 3 said, "The whole Matt Patricia, Joe Judge fiasco, it is hard to judge him on that. It'll be better because they'll actually have routes that work." See, like, for a coach to call out another coach and say your routes don't work, I mean, how bad is your offense? Anyways, and they'll have variations and change-ups and answers. He has already done that once with Josh McDaniels and played his best, so he will like it and he will take it from Bill O'Brien. Although a few voters dropped Jones into tier 4, most saw him as a tier 3 quarterback whose outlook will never be as much better than that. If you look at the guys in tier 1 and 2, for the most part, they have the ability to create off-platform, and that has always been my issue with Mac, even coming out, an exec said. I thought coming out his best case scenario was you were going to get Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a tier 2 quarterback, sir. Those limitations are not the only limitations for Jones. You look at the skill groups, he has the worst cast of any young quarterback. Thank you! Can you please tell this to Bill Belichick, please? I literally had this conversation with a guy at lacrosse today. Bro, every young quarterback has a receiver, has an OC, has something. What does Mac got that Joe Burrow's got, that Tua's got, that Hurts has got, that Allen had, that Mahomes had, that any of these young guys, even Pickett? Anyways, thank you. How do you build up his confidence? You have a new coordinator. Great. I hope Bill O'Brien makes it easy for him, but you have a quarterback who can't create off-platform, who doesn't have the run after catch guys that Tua has, and it's tough. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Tier 4, Brock Purdy's going to be number 1. Okay. A tier 4 quarterback could be an unproven player. Okay, fair enough. Not enough information for voters to classify. That's Brock Purdy. Or a veteran who ideally would not start all 17 games. Okay, so I'm going to go with a little quicker. Only the ones that I'm really fascinated by, I'm going to really stop. So Brock Purdy, number 24. Many promising players have debuted in tier 4 because a lot of them are unproven, I assume, including Mahomes, Lamar. The reason was simple. Voters hadn't seen enough for a fuller evaluation. Purdy fell right on the border of 3 and 4. But with the average tier vote, that could have qualified him for tier 3, but a majority of voters place him in tier 4. So he had one tier 2 vote, which is interesting. So he had more tier 2 votes than Mac Jones. I think just Mac. Just Mac? Did anyone else in tier 3 not have a tier 2 vote? Tua did. Yeah, okay, so just Mac. Interesting. So he had one more vote in tier 2 than Mac. Interesting. Okay. Purdy made 5 regular season starts last year, blah, 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 blah. When I looked at him, I thought he was a 4, an offensive coach said. But when you watch the kid play, he's an absolute gamer. He has the intangibles, the moxie, the want to, the leadership. That's what I really like about Brock Purdy, man. The guy's just got the moxie. That's a great way to describe it. He's got the moxie. He's got the want to. Like, he's just got this game sense about him that I think is special. Like, that's the thing about him. Like, he's just got the it for me. Like, there's something about him. Purdy was in an ideal situation. Elite play caller, elite defense, played well enough to draw 23 tier 3 votes and a single tier 2 vote. You put him on any other team, they lose more than half the games, a guy said. Okay, interesting enough. Any other team? Philadelphia, Dallas, Andy Reid's team? Any? I don't know about any. That might be a little bit much. That's a little harsh, bro. Brocky Purdy. That's my guy. But I agree with tier 4 based on the unproven factor. 25, Kenny Pickett. I also kind of agree with this spot. Okay, so for Kenny Pickett, by most accounts, the Steelers have found themselves a solid starting quarterback. Solid, but not spectacular. 100% agree. 100%. I think Kenny Pickett's going to be very solid. I think there are some Steelers fans that are overrating him a little. Like, I don't think he's going to take a huge jump this year, but I think he's going to be a solid guy for a long time that you can win with, especially if you're a Steelers team with a good defense and all that stuff. And he has a little gamer nature to him as well, like Brock Purdy. So let's see what they say. His best traits are going to be his moxie, decision-making, toughness, leadership, things that really don't have a number. Okay, yeah, I can see that. 24 tier 3 votes, 26 in tier 4. So he was close to tier 3. I think he sees it, and when things break down, he's much more mobile than you think. I totally agree with that point. I just don't think he has an elite arm. Yeah, he doesn't. Another coordinator thought Pickett would be in the Kirk Cousins, Mac Jones, Derek Carr conversation at some point. His talent is limited. All the rest of it is top notch. So they love the mental, they love the moxie, but he's just not that talented. Okay. But I think that's good enough to be a good quarterback in the NFL. 26, Jordan Love, my guy. 1 tier 3 vote. 49 in tier 4. Not a lot to go off of. We have no idea what this guy is. An offensive coach says, my initial read is that he doesn't process the game very well. I don't see a natural, smooth, instinctive player the way he reacts to the defense. Okay. Love is not the only one under evaluation here. We are going to see how good of a coach Matt LaFleur is. How good he was with game management on offense. How good he is in 2-minute. Because everyone has an experience with Aaron Rodgers. Who has any experience with Aaron Rodgers knows he's in charge of that. Okay. I get that. You've got Alexander out there saying Love is the best QB in the league, but those are pretty big shoes to fill, a GM said. I haven't seen enough to feel comfortable into the season like they are saying this, or I can't read. I'm so out of it. Sorry, guys. But this guy's basically saying, like, okay, there's guys like Alexander saying he's awesome, but I don't really know. Like, I'm not comfortable putting him anywhere. So, yeah. What I see based on this is The Athletic and people in the NFL need to do a better job evaluating Jordan Love. Because clearly they have not actually spent the time to give an opinion on him. Because nothing in this section here tells me anything I want to know about Jordan Love. Nothing. Zero. Absolutely nothing. It only tells me about Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur. The Matt LaFleur part was a little interesting. Other than that, I think that was the most poorly written part of the article. Continuing. Also at number 26 is Baker Mayfield. The Bucs will decide between Mayfield and Trask. So he had 12 tier 3 votes. He had 27 tier 4 votes. And where I would place him is tier 5. He sucks. That's how bad he was last year. I don't know what he's missing. A coordinator who placed Mayfield in tier 4 said, I've seen former number 1 picks just melt under the pressure a little bit. Baker has been jettisoned around all over the place, and nobody really wants to put their arms around him and keep him. Mayfield is a low 3, according to this guy. On his way to being a backup, an offensive coach said. His accuracy has suffered. He has no accuracy. His presence in the pocket, his presence under pressure, he has no game awareness in 2-minute situations. He has so many things wrong with him, dude. His accuracy is bad. He's got a strong arm. He's small, too. Sam Howell, 1 tier 3 vote. Wow. 47 tier 4 votes, 2 tier 5 votes. It's my guy, Sam Howell. I don't know how anyone could put him in tier 3 based on one game. That's kind of crazy to me. Like, tier 4 is totally like what he should be. I would rather have him than Baker Mayfield, though. Before it's all said and done, I'll be shocked if Brissett is not out there. Okay. Maybe they see... I will say Brissett is solid. He's also better than Baker Mayfield. Maybe they see something I don't see in Sam Howell coming out. He played out in that one opportunity. What the hell does that mean? Couldn't you pick someone better than Brock Purdy to compare him to, one exec said? Ron Rivera said that Howell reminded him of Brock Purdy. Okay. It's not a good sign when they're comparing him to the guy in San Francisco. Damn, bro. You don't like Brock Purdy? Come on! Give me some love for Brock Purdy, bro. Howell does not have an amazing physical gifts, but there are some things, leadership and tangible standpoint, that you like. An offensive coordinator said. I will say he has a good arm and he can run. Those are 2 physical gifts. Desmond Ridder at number 29. 44 tier 4 votes, 1 tier 3 vote, and 5 tier 5 votes. In that system, I think he can be what Ryan Tannehill was. Oh, the Ryan Tannehill hate is on an unbelievable level right now. There's a lot more to learn about him, but I think we saw enough that he can be a good system quarterback. Oh, okay, we'll see. I don't know. What else they say here? They drafted Bijan. That could be their Derrick Henry. A lot of similarities to what Arthur did in Tennessee. I mean, yeah, if Ritter throws 12 times a game, he'll be fine. Okay, moving on. Gardner Minshew. I love him on this list at number 30. Yes, he deserves this, bro. Minshew deserves this. I would put him on my list too if I was allowed to rank backups, but I'm pretty sure he's a backup. I think he plays with poise and confidence, the defensive coordinator said, but he is really just a spot starter. I think that's fair. He could have a better record this year than some of these guys who are the fours because the defense in Indy is... Bro, the Indy's terrible. They're terrible. He had 3 tier 3 votes, though. That's interesting. Okay, that's the list, guys. That's it. That's it. I took my time with this one. Man. I took my time with this one. This was a great conversation. This was very fascinating to read. A lot of interesting nuggets within the article. I'd recommend you check it out for yourself. I will say I agreed with some of it, especially the top half. Disagreed with a lot of kind of near the bottom, especially some of the comments from the people. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Gronk spike the like button, subscribe, and let me know if you want to see more reactions just like this. Peace.